106.5. It's time now for Front Page Jacksonville, a show that delves into the issues that affect you. We believe in transparency and providing only the facts. And now, here's Octavius Davis.
Good Sunday morning to you. We are back in the building on this beautiful summer Sunday morning. I am Octavius, the $1 Million Voice Davis. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Front Page Jacksonville here on Hot 106.5 FM, the soul of Duval. How has the week been for you? I trust it was enjoyable, kind, and all of those good things. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I have been recuperating all week. So last weekend, my wife and I had to take a quick impromptu trip up to Virginia to pick up our granddaughter. Listen to me. That is a 9-hour drive one way. 9 hours one way. I am not a road warrior. My max before I begin pulling every hair follicle out of my beard is about 5.5 to 6 hours. So what does that mean? I have the choice of either driving to Miami or Atlanta before I need to be committed. But here it is. We drove 9 hours, 3 hours past my max to Virginia to go and pick up little boo-boo. I call her boo-boo. Her name is Chloe, but I call her boo-boo. Now, was it worth it? Absolutely. But the recovery time, I've been recovering all week. My body, I was telling my wife just the other day, my body isn't bodying the way I'm used to it bodying. You know, I'm used to getting up 3:30 Monday through Friday, being at the gym by 4:30, working out for an hour and a half, coming home, getting cleaned up, heading to work to put in a typical work day. But not this past week. No, thank you. I worked from home all week. I missed a couple of days at the gym. Why? Because the body wasn't bodying. And at some point midway through the week, I had to turn to my wife and ask her, how old am I? I could not remember how old I am at this current time. And so they jokingly, I say jokingly, I don't know if people are joking when they say this or not, but people jokingly say the mind is the first thing to go. I couldn't remember how old I am earlier this week. I'm 46, but I felt like I was 64. And so then I decided midweek, I missed my run over the weekend. Let me run on out here and take my quick little 6-mile run. Mind you, this is the afternoon of a day where I went into the gym earlier that morning to work out. So I do my little quote unquote quick 6-mile run. It wasn't quick at all. It was painful. My knees were aching. Joints that hadn't hurt since I don't know how long was giving the kids some problems out there on that concrete pavement. Needless to say, I didn't make it out for my run this weekend. I am on hiatus this week. I'm giving myself a physical vacation from strenuous activities because I need to recover. I don't know what was on that trip on 95 North heading up to Virginia, but it took something out of me. And I take pre-workout, I take creatine, I take other supplements, that I use for working out. And if you follow me on social media at The $1 Million Voice, you see me. I do all the dancing. Jack, you see all the dancing I do in the videos. Not this week. There was no shimmying this past week. No. I had to conserve all of my energy. And this week, my goal is to rest. And I have to preface it that way because yesterday morning, like clockwork, 6:30, my body popped up. I got up so that I can go for my run, put my gear on and everything. And I thought I was tiptoeing over to give my wife a kiss so that I can sneak out the house because I told her the night before that I wasn't going to go running. And before I can get to her side of the bed, she's like, where you think you going? Get yourself. She didn't use those words. I can't repeat the words because it's Sunday morning. But she used some choice words. Get yourself in this here bed. You ain't going nowhere. You need to rest. So my goal this week is to rest, not go to the gym, allow my body an opportunity to fully recover so that I can get back out there and get at it next week. Because, yes, I am 46. I feel great as a 46-year-old. Prior to this week, physically, I felt stronger than I ever have in my life with the ability to do things that I've never been able to do. Well, I don't know. I'll be 47 come November. And I think 47 is trying to make its way here sooner than expected. Because I felt every bit of 46 this past week. But hopefully for you, your week was healthy, enjoyable, productive, and the whole 9 yards. So I have quite a few things that we'll have an opportunity to jump on this week here on Front Page Jacksonville. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Your comments are welcomed at 833-758-1065. Maybe you're not a phone person. Believe it or not, I do not enjoy talking on the phone. All the talking that I do on this show, these are probably the most words that I use throughout the course of the week. I don't enjoy talking on the phone. I'm not a what is it called? Small talk. I'm not a small talk type of person, out and about. Now I'm friendly, I'm cordial the whole 9 yards, but I'm introverted. So I don't really use a whole lot of words. These are the most words that I use throughout the week. And so maybe you don't want to hop on the phone, but you do want to make a comment. Well, you're more than welcome to download our free Hot 106.5 app, and you can go to our open mic feature right there on the app and voice your comments, and I will be more than happy to play them here on the show at a later date because you are indeed the star of Front Page Jacksonville. Speaking of stars, let's jump right on into it. Congratulations to Coco Gauff. If you don't know who Coco Gauff is, Coco won her first French Open title yesterday. Ariana Sabalenka, I believe is her last name. Is how you pronounce her last name, and I'm pretty sure I messed it up. Sabalenka. Yeah, I had it right. Arina Sabalenka is who Coco Gauff had an opportunity to defeat in 3 sets to win her first French Open title yesterday. Now, Coco Gauff is the heir apparent to the Williams sisters. And I'm calling her the heir apparent. I haven't heard any other, talking head sport outlets refer to her as such. But I do know that the Williams sisters were a huge influence for this young lady as she came up through the golfing ranks. Her last name is Gauff. As she came up through the tennis ranks. And she's also a native to Florida. I'm guessing South Florida, Central Florida, somewhere up and through there. And I caught a little bit of the match yesterday. Now, listen, I'm not a tennis guy. I'm not. Many years ago, my youngest daughter, Kayla, she played a little bit of tennis. Bless her heart and all her parts. The coordination wasn't there, but my munchkin was out there, okay? My munchkin was out there at those competitions, giving it her all. Bless her heart. But Coco has been at this thing for a while. And the Williams sisters played a huge influence on her. I think a couple of years ago, she had an opportunity to actually play against, I think, either Venus or Serena. And I think Coco won. And it was a very emotional win for her because, you're playing your idol, essentially. And to defeat them, I'm sure it was both overwhelming and humbling all at the same time. But Coco was ranked number 2. Arina Sabalenka was ranked number 1 in yesterday's match. And Coco won. 6-7, 6-2, and 6-4 were the finals in those 3 sets they played on yesterday. Now, I don't know much about tennis. As I mentioned, I'm not a tennis guy. But I had an opportunity to take a listen to the post-match interviews. And I don't know, Arena sounded like she was trying to make a lot of excuses for the weather conditions as to why she didn't play her best tennis. I don't know. Sound a little bit like excuses to me. Fact of the matter is, Arena, she won. She won. She shot the BB gun. You lost. You lost. You ate tomato sauce. That's the golden rule of sports. of competition. Okay? So don't be salty. Don't be tomato-y about it. Just accept that L and come back better next year. But congratulations to Coco Gauff. Congratulations to Arena as well, because they both had to go up against some very heavy competition to make it to yesterday's finals. Coco just so happened to have the better day on the court to walk away with her first French Open title. And staying right here in the world of sports, basketball has long since been my sport of choice until maybe 10 years ago. I stopped watching basketball as much and began to lean heavily into watching football. But as an athlete, I used to play basketball profusely as a younger man. Grew up in the 90s, watching 90s basketball. So I am a Jordan purist. When people speak about the GOAT, ain't no argument, okay, on who the GOAT is. Michael Jeffrey Jordan is the GOAT when you speak about the basketball court. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But over the weekend, Saturday, there was a very intriguing thing that took place on social media that has me a little bit excited. It's called 1v1. Two former NBA athletes, Michael Beasley, Lance Stevenson. I think that's his name, Lance Stevenson, formerly of the Indiana Pacers. Michael Beasley, formerly of the Miami Heat. He became a journeyman a bit throughout his career. But these gentlemen played a game of one-on-one. It was a pay-per-view event on social media, and it has a lot of basketball heads extremely excited because I'm not a fan of this new school NBA. All they do is run down the court, shoot threes, and then nobody plays defense. Nobody's going down court, setting up. There's no rolling of picks. It's just the wild, wild west as far as I'm concerned for throwing up three-pointers. That's not basketball to me. What those young men were doing out there on Saturday, they were playing for a $100,000 cash prize. And Michael Beasley, if you're not familiar with Michael Beasley, one of the reasons why he became a bit of a journeyman throughout his NBA career is because, he's had some off-the-court troubles. And as we'll be discussing during the second hour today, because we are still in the month of June. June is Men's Health Month. Today, we'll be looking into men's mental health. Well, for Michael Beasley, his mental health off the court has presented challenges for him. And so despite those challenges, his basketball skills are A1. As a matter of fact, he was in the same draft as Derrick Rose. I think he went number 2 and Derrick Rose went number 1, but Beasley could have easily have gone number 1. And so a lot of the trash talking, like leading up to the match, those clips were circulating on social media. And I got wind of it, I think, on Friday when I started seeing the clips going around. I was like, what have we here? Because I'm familiar with both of those gentlemen in their game just because of the era of when they played. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm here for the trash talk. I'm all for the trash talk. But when a person says, I'm going to do X, Y, Z to you, and then day of said competition, they do X, Y, Z to you, exactly as they said it, that's a bad mamma jamma. Everything that Michael Beasley said he was going to do to Lance Stevenson, he did. And he won that $100,000 cash prize. I'm amped. I cannot wait for the next competition. I truly, truly hope, with all of the hope on the inside of me, that former NBA veterans, street ball legends, etc., come to the court to participate in this. I would love to see ESPN keep ESPN out of it. Let's keep it grassroots and keep it on social media. Because when the big conglomerates get into it, that's when stuff get all murky. Now they want to clean up the trash talk. No. I want that. I want to feel as though I'm at Bruce Park. I came up playing at Bruce Park in Arlington back in the day. There was no filtered trash talk. You was gonna get all that heat coming out of somebody's mouth, and depending upon how you was feeling, on any given day, something could have led to a fight. That's the kind of basketball I'm used to. And then when everything is over, you shake hands, you make up, and you go on about your way. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping to see with these 1v1 competitions moving forward in the world of basketball. And then one other item, since we're here in the world of sports, keeping things local, the Jacksonville Armada were forced to find a new field for their game on yesterday, after apparently there was some facility management issues at Edward Waters University, and the Armada were not able to play on Saturday. Now, the story doesn't go into detail about what those facility management issues were. Edward Waters University made a statement on their social media on Friday night, a little bit after midnight, or so you can say Saturday morning, stating that they would not be able to host the game, but they didn't give any details as to what happened. Needless to say, the Armada were able to pivot, and they played their doubleheader at Patton Park, which is over on Hodges Boulevard. And thankfully, depending upon how you look at it, but this is me finding the silver lining in the cloud. Thankfully, the team they're used to having to find facilities at the last minute. So thankfully, they were able to pivot. They were able to find a new location to play their game. And thankfully, they were able to inform their fans well in enough time so that they can be out there to support them as well. Now, I'm truly hoping that whatever that facility issue was at Edward Waters is able to be corrected, and that the Armada are able to finish out their season there at EW. But if they're not, then, because I just like that look. I think it's great to have a professional soccer team playing at Edward Waters. I like the exposure. I like the possibilities of doors that could open up for the university. But if it can't happen, such is life, I get that too. But on behalf of the Jacksonville Armada, they are in the process of working to have their own facilities. They recognize that they need their own field. And apparently, according to Armada ownership, they're looking to potentially break ground within the next 90 days of identifying a site for their own stadium. So hopefully that will work well in their favor, because, it can be a huge inconvenience when you have fans and family, and, it makes it difficult to really build your audience if you find yourself being mobile every single time you have a game, meaning you're at a different facility every time your team has a game. It becomes really hard to plant and establish roots. Hey, this is Front Page Jacksonville. There's a lot more coming up here on the show. If you'd like to jump in with your comments, 833-758-1065 is the number to call. Or you can download the free Hot 106.5 mobile app and go to the open mic feature to drop your thoughts and comments there. This is Front Page Jacksonville. More is on the way.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
This past week, in the realm of music and entertainment, although this young man was not at the forefront of many people's entertainment roster, nonetheless, hearing of his passing was still unfortunate. I'm speaking about the son of Brian McKnight, Nico McKnight, passed away from cancer this past week, and definitely want to send my condolences to his family, to his friends and close loved ones. It's unfortunate that some of the family drama is shadowing his unfortunate passing, as well as his family's ability to really remember his legacy of what he was able to leave behind for those that he loved most. So if you're not familiar, for the past couple of years now, Brian McKnight has not necessarily won any Father of the Year awards with his relationship with his children from his first marriage. I don't know all the ins and outs and details. I'm just going based off of what has circulated on social media. I've met Brian a couple of times in person, but I don't know him personally. Once upon a time, he was like on my list, right? In terms of like my favorite artists, there were Stevie Wonder, and then it was Brian McKnight for me at once upon a time. But just with some of the things that he has said publicly as it relates to his family, children, and so forth, I just have had to step back from that a little bit. There's some things I'm just not going to co-sign on. Either case, last week, Claude McKnight, which is Brian's older brother, for those of you who may be familiar, Claude is also a well-known singer, a member of the group, the gospel group Take Six. Well, Claude McKnight is the one who made the announcement of Nico's passing. And Brian didn't take too kindly to that, which, okay, I get it. I'm a dad. I understand. There are certain things that you just want to keep behind closed doors. Brian felt that perhaps it was his brother attempting to capitalize off of Nico's passing because Claude chose to make the announcement via TikTok. I get it. That's family business. People feel differently on how they want family business to be handled. I don't have any qualms with that. I don't even have any qualms really with what Brian's statements were, that when he chose to address everything publicly with his son passing and how his brother chose to announce it. But Julie McKnight, Brian McKnight's ex-wife, first wife, the mother of Nico, I really like what she did on social media. Rather than taking to social to bash Brian or try to defend or rebuttal and all those different things, she simply took to social media to pay tribute to her son. If you follow her on social media, Julie McKnight, in her stories, she has a few different videos that's just showing Nico, spit as he was with his family and his nieces, nephews, etc. Here's what Julie said in a statement that she put on social. He, speaking of Nico, he is more than an estranged son, than a sensational headline. He is the purest, sweetest human we've been blessed to have. He is a loving husband, caring and playful uncle, the other half to his brother and a fierce protector of his two sisters, a friend and mentor to many, a talented photographer and gifted musician, a son that I was gifted, that I will forever be proud of. His legacy of kindness, laughter, generosity, and strength will love on. That's my boy, and I couldn't be prouder. Hashtag Mook, and then in parentheses, Mama Bear. Kudos to Julie McKnight for remembering and recognizing her son in that way publicly. I'm sure the family continues to recognize and remember him during this season. So I extend my prayers to the McKnight family. Ask that you do the same with extending your thoughts and prayers towards the McKnight family as well as they navigate this challenging time. And, the passing of a loved one is always difficult. As a parent, I could not fathom the difficulty that comes along with losing a child. And I hope to heaven to not have to experience that. But you now couple that with a family that's in the eye of the public, that's in the eye of the media, and having to try to navigate all of that with grace, with a level of class. I imagine that it's difficult. And everyone handles grief differently. But I truly hope that the McKnight family will be shrouded in the peace, comfort, and love of the Most High as they navigate this challenging time. So speaking of love, let me kind of pivot to the opposite of love. Now, many would assume that the opposite of love is hate, and that's primarily because that's what we've been taught. But no, the opposite of love is fear. And people fear what they do not understand. And sometimes the symptoms, some of the symptoms that will come out of fear is hate. Well, speaking of hate, a local LGBTQ plus advocate committee is responding to what can be viewed as a hate post on social media. So not only is the month of June Men's Health Month, not only is it Black Music Month, but it's also Pride Month. June is a very congested month, okay? Because not only is it those three things, but it's also Reunification Month for those who are in social work and child welfare. So June is a little busy. It's a whole lot going on in the month of June. Well, a local group, specifically the Mandarin Republican Club, made a post on Facebook, and local LGBTQ plus advocates are interpreting this post as being cynical, but also an extension of hate. The post reads, "Happy Pride Month. So glad our Acosta Bridge was lit in their honor." Now, on the surface, those words sound supportive. On the surface, there doesn't seem to be anything cynical about their choice of words. But you've heard, just as I have heard, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here are the words that weren't said, but rather shown. Because in the images that accommodate this post, there's a photo of Jeffrey Dahmer. If you're not familiar with Jeffrey Dahmer, he was convicted of being a serial killer. There's a picture of a convicted child molester, Jerry Sandusky, and another photo of a Georgia couple convicted of sexually assaulting their children. But it doesn't stop there. There's another photo of Mayor Deegan with former gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum, who was caught up in a sex scandal a few years back. And so local LGBTQ plus community leader James Eady called the post offensive and hateful. Yeah, I could see where Mr. Eady would interpret that. Again, when you think about the words that were stated, Happy Pride Month, so glad our Acosta Bridge was lit in their honor. And then the accommodating photos. Yeah, I would say sarcasm was at play. Hate, well, that can be left to interpretation. However, local news media did reach out to the Mandarin Republican Club, and wouldn't you know it, they have no clue how that post got on their Facebook page. This was the Duval County Republican Party response. We did not push it out. We did not approve it. We did not sanction it. Okay, who did? Attempts to contact the Mandarin Republican Club were unsuccessful. Who did push it out? It's very easy to determine who pushed it out. Because on Facebook, when you have groups or business pages, etc., those pages have to be linked to an individual person's page. And usually the individual person whose page that group or business page is connected to, you can also go in and add other people as administrators. And you can even control the type of access those administrators have, who can post, what they can't post, so on and so forth. So it's very easy to tell who posted. And I'll take it a step further. Because if you have multiple administrators on a Facebook business or group page, if you go into the page and you look at the post, and I'm speaking on the group page itself, if you go into the main administrator page of the group or business, it will show you the name of the person who made the different posts on the page. It shows you that. So you don't have to be Inspector Gadget to figure out this mystery. Okay? We don't have to call Shaggy and the boys in the Mystery Mobile roll up to figure out who made this post on this Mandarin Republican Club the other day. No, that's just the PR spin cycle that they're trying to give because the media reached out to them. But stop. Cut it out. This is 2025. It's 2025. And in this day and age, are we really being immature with how we refer to different groups? Come on, cut it out. Live and let live. 833-758-1065. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this? Feel free to download the free Hot 1065 mobile app and go to the open mic feature to make your comments known there, or you can call in. Be more than happy to hear from you. So in the previous story that I just made mention of, one of the photos captured current Mayor Donna Deegan in a photo with former gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum. Well, we have former Mayor Alvin Brown making the news once again. Now, if you're not familiar with former Mayor Alvin Brown, he was Jacksonville's first African-American mayor. I believe that was from 2011 to 2015, if memory serves me correctly. What's up, Mayor Brown? Good dude. Have known Mayor Brown since the early 2000s, I believe. I remember many moons ago when I was at a former radio station, he reached out to myself and your very own Wanda P. He said, hey, want to sit down with the two of you, go to lunch, et cetera. And that's where he shared with us that he had planned to run for mayor. So this must have been 2007 when we met with him, and he shared that he was planning to run for mayor. And so during that time, before he made the formal announcement and everything, he was pretty much, setting everything up, finding out who he could rely on. And Wanda and I both working in media, he wanting us to, kind of be a part of that whole media push for his campaign. And so I was elated when he finally won. Elated when he won. Unfortunately, he only got one term here in Jacksonville. And I didn't keep my ear to the ground closely back then in terms of all of the politics and different things going on around the city. Some people loved him. Some people disliked him as mayor. I don't have any skin in the game either way. I was just happy to see that the brother had won. Well, prior to him returning to Jacksonville back then to run for mayor, he had been in D.C. for quite a while. Was a part of the Clinton administration. And during this 2007-2008 window, if memory serves me correctly, at that time, former Senator Hillary Clinton was running for president. So he was a part of her campaign. President Obama was elected, got into office. He worked with the Obama administration for a little while and then left the Obama administration to come back to Jacksonville to run for mayor. Was elected mayor in 2011. Well, now He's still in D.C., but he's actually filing a lawsuit against President Trump. Alvin Brown was appointed vice chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, but was later removed by Trump. So he is suing both Trump and the NTSB, again, the National Transportation Safety Board, saying that his removal was illegal. Brown was appointed as vice chairman by President Biden in December of 2024. The term was intended to last through December of 2026. But Brown was released by President Trump on May 6th. Now, the lawsuit says that Congress has not given the president the power to remove officials from the NTSB at will, except for in cases of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. And Brown has said, look, none of that has transpired. Old boy just sent me an email saying I was out of there. There was no mention of inefficiencies, neglect of duties, malfeasance in office, none of that. None of that. So removing me, what's the cause? There is no just cause for this. So shout out to former Jacksonville Mayor Alvin Brown for continuing to be present in Washington, D.C., making a difference where he can, but also B, with being willing to stand up against this administration and any inequalities or inefficiencies being thrown his way in terms of attempting to oust him out of his current position. This is the Front Page Jacksonville. Stick around. More is on the way.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on Hot 106.5.
Now, once upon a time, I was considering working in television news. That's right. The $1 Million Voice could have been the $1 Million Face. I don't know if it would have quite translated as well on camera. I don't know. Yeah. Jack, I appreciate your vote of confidence, right? Of course, I have a voice for radio, so to speak. I don't know if I have a face for television. But once upon a time, I was going to try my hand at it. As a matter of fact, in high school, I was on our school's media production team, and I would do the morning news, which would broadcast to the entire school there at Sandalwood on camera and everything else. And at the end of my senior year, with the different senior superlatives that people put out there, one of the things that people were saying about me at the school is that I was most likely to be the next Rob Sweeting. For those of you who remember Rob Sweeting, who was a hometown hero on a local news station for years. People was like, oh yeah, Octavius, he's going to be the next Rob Sweeting. Well, here it is. I go to college at Edward Waters, majoring in communications, was already working in radio, but I was like, maybe there's something to this television thing. And so I'll never forget it. November of 1998. I had an opportunity to secure an internship for a local TV station, news station in particular. The same news station that our current mayor, Donna Deegan, used to work at. And so here it is. It's my first day. I was persistent with securing this internship opportunity because I remember my communications professor saying persistence was one of the traits and qualities that we had to have in this industry, the communications industry as a whole. And so I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, filled with hope, rainbows, and gumdrops as I went into my first day at the station because I was going to learn what I needed to learn. I said to myself, well, I'm already working in radio and I'm learning that pretty well. I can learn this TV thing too, and who knows what type of future I can build for myself. So my first day, I was with the assignment editor. That was my post. And the assignment editor was kind of giving me the lay of the land. Here's what I need you to do today. Here's what this does, and this is what that is, so on and so forth. Maybe 30 minutes to an hour into my first day as an intern, all HE double hockey sticks broke loose in the newsroom. Why? Why? Because November 1998, on this same day, the body of 12-year-old Maddie Clifton was discovered under the waterbed of her neighbor, Joshua Phillips, who at the time was 14 years old. Whoa. You talk about overwhelmed. I think I was 19 at the time, had just turned 19. I was overwhelmed by the pandemonium that ensued in that newsroom as anchors and reporters and videographers and editors were racing around the newsroom, barking charges to the other person. Sitting at the news desk, I even overheard instances of videographers, photographers, the guys with the big old camera. Well, back in the day, they used to run around with big old cameras on their shoulders. They don't do that anymore. Those days are long gone. But back then, there were instances of those guys actually fighting fisticuffs at the scene because they wanted the scoop. They wanted the exclusive of position when this 12-year-old girl's lifeless body was discovered. Well, needless to say, that one day in that newsroom was all the exposure that I needed to know that, nope, radio is where I'm going to stay. No thanks, news media. You can keep that. It's a little bit too intense for me. I never returned back to the internship. Now, that's unfortunate because I didn't follow through on my commitment. But at the same time, the purpose of an internship is to learn whether or not something is the right fit for you. And I learned quickly within an hour and a half that news media was not the right fit for me. Well, I share this because Joshua Phillips, he is back in Duval County preparing for a sentencing review. Now, he was charged with serving life. I don't think charged is the right word. But again, I'm not a legal guy. I'm a radio guy. Okay. I don't know all the legal terms, lawyers that are listening. Sentenced. I guess that's the right word. He was sentenced to life in prison. But there was a ruling that came down that said that because he was a minor, it wasn't necessarily fair that he got that life sentence. And so he was resentenced in 2017 with an automatic review after he serves 25 years. Well, it's been a little more than 25 years at this point. And so with this resentencing, they're not necessarily looking at the crime that he committed. They're looking at, I want to say like the past, like his time in prison over the past 25 years. What's been happening with him over the past 25 years since he's been locked up? And so public defenders, they're now preparing their arguments and their statements in an effort to petition for his release. I've never been to prison. Hope to heaven to never have to go to prison. And just based on stories that I've heard from some people when they go to prison, they come out worse. Some people, when they go to prison, there are things that they learn while they're in that environment. There are changes to their personality that happens because they are seeking to survive in that environment. And yes, there are instances where people have gone to prison, sometimes unjustly, unfairly, and they've come out changed, reformed, I think is the proper term. They've come out reformed, and they've completely turned their lives around. I'm not saying that is or is not the case for Joshua Phillips. But what I am saying is, at the age of 14 years old, this young man committed a heinous crime, was tried as an adult, was sentenced to life in prison. I am certain that these past 25 plus years have been difficult for the Clifton family. I'm sure they've been difficult for the Phillips family. And so, do I have apprehensions and concerns at this stage of him being incarcerated for 25 years with the possibility of him being released? Yeah, I do. Because while the public defender may be looking at the past 25 years of his time while in prison, are we, the public, just supposed to ignore the act that led him to prison in the first place? The degree by which he went about concealing what he had done? Are we supposed to just ignore that as if it didn't happen, as if it doesn't matter? At 14 years old? And I'm just going to do some quick math in my head, but he was 14 when he murdered Maddie, plus 25 years. He's knocking on 40 years old. He's bigger now, stronger now. He's been exposed to the penal system now. I don't know what his psychological state was at 14 years old, but that's him being considered for resentencing to potentially be released. Are we not potentially exposing others to a similar or worse crime that he may come in contact with? I'm speaking others, other adults and children, because Maddie was a 12-year-old child when he committed that crime. What are your thoughts? And I'd like to hear it from both sides of the fence. So I'll throw out two scenarios. If Maddie was your 12-year-old daughter, how would you feel if their convicted killer was being considered for release? Or if Joshua Phillips was your 14-year-old son who committed the crime, how would you feel with him being considered for release? 833-758-1065 is the number to call if you'd like to jump on Front Page Jacksonville. Or maybe you are not a phone person. Well, feel free to download the free Hot 1065 mobile app, where you can go to our open mic feature and make your comments known there. So June is Men's Health Month. There's all types of things that make up men's health, right? And we dived into this a little bit last week. So what I want to share with you very quickly are 10 reasons why Men's Health Month is important. These are 10 reasons why Men's Health Month is important. I'm not going to go as detailed as I did last week. I'm just going to give you the surface level. Number one, it raises awareness of preventable health issues. 2, encourages early detection and treatment. 3, addresses mental health stigmas. 4, promotes healthy lifestyle choices. 5, educates about specific male health concerns. 6, improves health outcomes for future generations. 7, highlights health disparities. 8, encourages support from loved ones. 9, supports workplace wellness. And 10, saves lives through education and action. So last week on the show, I did a deeper dive into a personal story that I just kind of skimmed the surface on a few weeks ago. We had overseer Jared Williams in on the show, just kind of talking about, church and the state of church in today's day and age with social media and everything else. And I shared my backstory in deeper detail last week about my own mental health challenges that I've had in the past. When I resigned from all things organized religion and came very close to taking my own life through suicide. Well, here are a few other factors when it comes to men's mental health, and specifically in the realm of suicide. But you know what? I'm going to hold on sharing those statistics. What I want to do is go to a clip from a gentleman. Now, this gentleman is a therapist. His name is Curtis Jasper. Curtis Jasper in Georgia. He had an opportunity to do a TED Talk where he was speaking about not just men's health, but specifically within the African-American community, the mental health of African-American men. So I want to make you aware the clip is about 2 minutes and 50 seconds long, but I promise you this will give you some great food for thought. Here's Curtis Jasper, a therapist in Georgia.
Depression, divorce, debt, devastation, deadbeat, despair. There is a black male mental health struggle. I became a therapist in therapy. The unsustainability of black male trauma, black male rage, black male resentment is a real thing, an unsustainable thing. So what's the struggle? 1 in 4 psychologists are black. And when I say black, I mean that includes black men and black women. According to the American Psychological Association, 4% psychologists worldwide, in this country, are black. For every 100,000 black Americans, only 1 black psychiatrist. 7% of black men received any form of mental health services in the last couple years. Right? Black youth, particularly black boys, are introduced with the struggle of mental health at a very early age. It's treated in elementary school by suspensions or special education referrals. So what's the black struggle? That's it. The inadequacy of practitioners who look like black men, who have a unique experience with mental health. Right? What does that mean for all of us? The current mental health industry does not sustain black male trauma, black male rage, black male resentment, which means we have to look at the factors that are uniquely attributed to black males in this country.
That's Curtis Jasper, a therapist in Georgia, speaking about the current state of the mental health of African American men. There are three things that stood out to me when hearing his speech. The first thing that stood out was the lack of representation in the field of psychology for African Americans. The second thing that stood out, I'm going to call it the mislabeling of youth in our educational system, specifically when it comes to behaviors and how those behaviors are handled and labeled in the school system as either being a disruption or being given an IEP or 504 plan. Now, Jasper didn't use these terms in his speech, but these are the terms that I'm using, IEP or 504, because I'm familiar with where those terms come from. IEP, Individualized Education Plan, or a 504 plan. You may be familiar with each of those plans if you have a child in the Duval County public school system or in the school system here in the state of Florida, period. The third thing that stood out to me from Mr. Jasper's speech is many of the factors that contribute to the degradation of men's mental health. What are some of the things that stand out to you, either from Jasper's comments or just in your own personal life? You may be a brother listening to this show right now, or you may know of a man who's dealing with experiencing some things, and that person is either reluctant to get the support that they need or doesn't know where to get the support that they need. Love to get your comments, 833-758-1065, if you'd like to jump on Front Page Jacksonville. Now, I shared last week my personal story. Just to skim the surface once again, as I stated at the beginning of this segment, I nearly committed suicide in 2007, November of 2007 to be exact. Something about November. So November of 1998, I had the internship. November 2007, I found myself at a crossroads with preparing to take my own life. But by the grace of God, I did not. And I did not truly because of a divine intervention. I had a divine visitation in that moment with words that were spoken to me that encouraged me to not take my own life. In case you're wondering, those words were, Octavius, you can either take your life or dedicate your life pursuing what you are truly passionate about. Now, I recognize that perhaps you have not ever heard those words in your darkest hour. Maybe you have a loved one who went through with ending their life. Maybe they did not have that moment of divine clarity. But if you're listening to this show right now, and if you have found yourself contemplating such things, I have a spoiler alert for you. This is your divine moment of clarity, because the Most High speaks through multiple outlets, communicates through multiple vehicles in an effort to gain our attention. So I want to share some information with you as it relates to mental health, specifically in the area of suicide. Men face significantly higher rates of suicide compared to women on a global and national scale. In the United States in 2023, men died by suicide 3.8 times faster than women. 3.8 times more than women. This means that while men make up approximately 50% of the population, men account for nearly 80% of suicide deaths. 80%. The suicide rate for males is approximately 3 to 4 times higher than the rate of females. Men aged 75 and older have the highest suicide rate among all age groups. For example, in 2022, the suicide death rate among men in this age group, again, that age group of 75 and older, was 43.9% per 100,000. What's the method of suicide for men? firearms are leading men's choice for terminating their lives. In 2023, firearms accounted for 55.3% of all suicide deaths for men specifically. There is a growing astronomical concern for the state of men's mental health. Now, during Curtis Jasper's speech, he made mention about the very small rate of representation of African Americans that are in the field of psychology and therapy here in this country. But just because there is a small percent, and I'm speaking for those who prefer specifically an African American therapist, just because there's a small percentage does not mean that there aren't therapists there who can represent you, who can understand you, who can relate to you, provide resources to you. And just because the percentage rate of African American therapists is very small, you don't have to limit yourself to an African American therapist. Whoever can help get you the help that you need, make that call. Again, full transparency. I currently have a therapist. And this isn't my first therapist. The first time that I experienced therapy, I was 17 years old. And as a 17-year-old kid, we're talking about back in the mid to late 90s. As a 17-year-old kid who grew up in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, therapy wasn't something that we talked about. It was taboo. To the point to where back then, my perception of someone going to therapy meant that they were crazy. And so when the doctors recommended that I go to therapy, my first rebuttal was, I'm not crazy. Why are you trying to send me to therapy? Well, here's what the situation was. At 17 years old, out of nowhere, I abruptly began having seizures. Doctors were baffled by it because I didn't have a history of seizures. And so they couldn't understand how this healthy 17-year-old kid with no history of seizures all of a sudden out of nowhere began having these violent bouts, these violent episodes. And so they had neurologists come to the hospital to have a conversation with me. I really wish they would have sent the neurologist in first, because the battery of tests and exams that I had to go through and doctors exhausting every method to try to find out what was going on with me. The tests were coming back negative. The doctors were baffled. They could not figure out what was going on. And so then finally, they said, well, you know what, let's have a group of neurologists come in. So the neurologist came in. I remember it was two older gentlemen. They just came down and sat and had a conversation with me. At the end of that conversation, they said, and my mom was present with me as well. Again, I was 17, I was a minor. They said, we know exactly what's going on. These seizures are a result of stress, specifically emotional stress. The trauma that this young man experienced as a child, I've shared on this show before. As a child, 4 or 5 years old, I was sexually molested by a female babysitter. I also experienced physical abuse from a stepfather when I was a child, coupled with other pressures that as a teenager I took on, taking on adult responsibilities as a 14-year-old. The neurologist said, it's stress. There's trauma and stress that this young man is experiencing, and it's manifesting itself in the form of these seizures. We recommend he goes to see a child psychologist or a child therapist. And I did not want to go. I did not want to go. But thankfully, my mom encouraged me to go. So my first therapist, his name was Dave. I'll never forget Dave. His office was on the Riverside. I went and had maybe 1 or 2 sessions with Dave. Pleasant guy, enjoyed the conversations with him. But after 2 sessions, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'm straight. I'm good. I don't need to go back. Nah, I don't need to go back. Few years later, or more than a few years later, maybe, in my mid-30s, went to see another therapist because of some challenges that I was experiencing in my personal life and in my marriage, trying to better understand me and some of the things that I was dealing with. That psychologist or therapist name was Dr. Fenton. And wouldn't you know it, in that same session, what reemerged in the conversation was my childhood traumas and the impact those traumas were having on my life, having on my behaviors. And so went through a few sessions with that doctor. And after a couple of sessions, no, I'm good. Yeah. I'm straight. Yeah. I got this handled. I'm good. I got this. Well, fast forward, 2023. Life continues to life. Life be lifing, as I often say. Life continues to do what it does. Stress and all those other factors playing a part. Challenges in my personal life, in my marriage, lands me back into therapy in 2023. This time my therapist, his name is Isaac. And the same theme from 17, 35, and at that time, 44, the theme of my childhood traumas became the topic of discussion. And so to this day, I am still in therapy. Here I am now 2 years removed. So unlike the previous 2 times when I was younger, when I was like, no, I'm good. I can handle this. I got this. Listen, I don't got this. Not by myself. I don't got this without the professional help of someone who is trained, who can provide me with the tools to learn how to navigate trauma and the behaviors that are birthed through those traumas. Understand something. Once we have an opportunity to understand our behaviors and know that it's attached to trauma, well, that explains the behavior. It does not excuse the behavior. And so now here I am transparently sharing with you, I am learning to navigate to be able to better understand myself because of my traumas, the behaviors associated with it, but then carve a new path of behaviors for myself that do not define me in an effort to become a better me, because I don't got this by myself. And so, brother, I share my heart with you this morning because maybe you are of the same belief that I once was. Nah, I got this. Pressure at work, pressure at home, marital challenges, right? Maybe you're frustrated with where you are currently in life. Now, I just saw my life being so much different than this by this stage of my life. Hey, man, look, talk to somebody. Specifically a professional. It's cool to vent to your boys. I got that too. Right? I got my homeboys that I'm locked in with, and I'm able to chop it up and just get real vulnerable and personal with them. I got that too. And yeah, great sounding board. Yeah, may give me some great advice. But having someone who's unbiased, someone who can hear everything you say and say, you know what, look, hey, I hear what you're saying, but look, your stuff stinks. Yeah, that woman has a point. You are ornery. You are difficult to communicate with. Yeah. She's not tripping. She's not making it up. The people at the job, no. They're not out to get you. You are your worst enemy. But let me share some tools with you on how you can change that narrative. We need that, man. Look, you can get this once getting the tools necessary so that we can navigate this thing successfully. Why? Because our mental health matters. Everything is not going to be sunshine and rainbows. The purpose of therapy is not to, and the purpose of mental health is not to live a life of consistent peace. Peace cannot exist without chaos. There must be a balance of the two. What therapy will do is give us tools to help us to better navigate the chaos successfully. Not to live in a perpetual state of peace. This isn't glory. This isn't heaven. Okay, so we have to learn how to deal with the hell here on earth. Hell at work, at home, out here in life. And men, getting a qualified therapist to help provide us those tools can put us in position to be successful with that journey. You listen to Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis. More is on the way.
The heartbeat of the community. Front Page Jacksonville returns on Hot 106.5.
In LA, they had this exercise where it's the first day of class and you have all these actors in there. And then she sit a chair in the front of the room, boom. And she said, all right, you, come here. Sit right here. This is me, I'm sitting in the chair. Back towards the whole crowd. All right, y'all, I want y'all to tell this guy what y'all see him as. So I'm sitting in the chair, everybody's saying, bad boy, the thug, the killer. I'm hearing this stuff. They don't know me, you know, I'm hearing this stuff. And she's like, all right, stop. She's like, all right, turn around, introduce yourself. So I turn around, I'm like,
which one of y'all trying me?
Yeah. I'm like, Woody, nice to meet y'all. Everybody's laughing. Turn back around. All right, what y'all see him as? Oh, he's the nice guy. He's the sweet guy. He's the da-da-da-da. But that moment made me realize people judge you before you even talk, before you even say something. You know what I mean? So before I was just picking any kind of role because I just wanted to act. But now moving forward in my career, it's like I want to be very strategic of what I pick because I don't want everybody to keep perceiving me as this bad person. Because It's okay, bro.
Those are the words of Woody McClain, Jacksonville's own Woody McClain, former background dancer for Chris Brown. He played the role of Bobby Brown in the New Edition story, in the Bobby Brown story, played the role of Kane in the TV series Power. And just the other day, he appeared on Cam Newton's podcast, sharing just about his life. But this story in particular, as we speak about Men's Health Month, today we're diving into men's mental health. You had an opportunity to hear him speak about an experience he had while at an acting class. And while in that class, him hearing the different labels that people were perceiving him as before they even had an opportunity to meet him, to know his name, find out the type of person that he is and what he's all about. All the negative labels that the class perceived him as. And if you notice in that clip, he could not finish his statement because he became so emotional, so moved, so impacted by that experience. And if you choose to go and watch the full interview later, he goes on and explains why he became emotional. He said, because I've worked so hard to not be any of those things that I was labeled as, only to have these people who don't even know me label me as that very thing. Why? Why? But Woody McClain is a young African-American brother attempting to navigate that Hollywood and entertainment landscape without being typecast, without becoming a stereotype or a statistic. I'll tell you another movie that he played in, and this is actually one of my favorite movies. I love it. He did a great job in it. So Woody McClain was in a film that came out, I think maybe 2 years ago at this point, on Netflix called The Harder They Fall. Top tier cast. Idris Elba was in the film. Jonathan Majors was in the film. I can't think of her name at the moment. I see her face, but I can't think of her name. But she voiced Huey and Riley from the Boondocks. Regina, I think Regina Hall, is that her last name? I think it may be. Top tier cast, excellent movie about the West and you know, just the whole cowboy movement from the African American perspective. But another Jacksonvillian who's in that film with him, and it's a very funny scene at the beginning of the film, R.J. Seiler. R.J. and Woody McClain are both from Jacksonville. And that scene is hilarious to me between Woody McClain and R.J. Seiler. And I think maybe this scene stands out even more to me because they are from Jacksonville. And y'all know how we are. When we see somebody on the big stage that's representing Duval, you know, we put a little more extra sauce on the support, as we should. And so it was very eye-opening for me to hear Woody share his story and his experiences on Cam Newton's show. And shout out to Cam Newton for providing a platform for that brother to feel comfortable and confident enough to be vulnerable. Because one of the things, if you recall in the clip, as Woody is speaking and then he stops and you hear those two gasps of Woody trying to compose himself, the voice that you hear that says, "It's all right, brother. It's all right." That's Cam Newton. That's Cam Newton. Cam Newton, a mountain of a man. I think Cam Newton is 6'5", 6'6", huge. He is what many would consider as being the pinnacle of masculinity, as he was a top-rated quarterback in the NFL for years. Just because of his sheer physical stature alone. Some people would look at Cam and say, "Oh, look, he's a man's man." I'll say what you want about how he dressed. Hey, his style is his style. But to have him say to another brother, "Hey, look, it's okay." I'm going to dig into that a little bit deeper. Cam didn't say this, but I'm going to say what Cam didn't say. It's all right to cry, man. Let it out. It's all right, man. Let it out. Fellas, we need to hear that. We need to have those spaces where we're able to be and do that. It's important. So as I said before the break, I'll reiterate. Today we're talking about men's mental health. Find a therapist, man. Prayer is good, okay? But this isn't something that can be prayed away. You can't Shaka McKee this away. You can't scripture quote this away. Get with someone, a licensed professional that can help you navigate the mental terrain of what you're experiencing in life. Prayer is good. Scriptures are good. I'm not downplaying those things. What I am saying is you can't rely on that alone. There is some natural that we have to put with the super in order for it to be a supernatural outcome. If you're relying all on the super without the natural, I read somewhere that says faith without works is dead. So please put in the work so that we can grow, so that we can be better, so that we can rebound, brothers, because your mental health matters. 833-758-1065 is the number to call. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. I am Octavius, the $1 million voice Davis. You know, it's been a while since I've done this. If you want to catch up with me, if you want to follow me on social media, if you want to see what I got going on, if you want to purchase some merchandise, yes, I have T-shirts the whole 9 yards. TheMillionDollarVoice.com is where you can go for all those things and more. That's DaMillion-Dollar-Voice.com. So there's a few other stories that I want to get to before we head out of here today. The first one that I'll dive into, have you heard that Job Corps is being paused nationwide? My brother used to go to Job Corps. Again, back in the 90s. Look, all my stories are from the 90s, okay? I know I'm Unc. Well, I had somebody the other day, Jack, call me OG. Now, Jack, let me ask, because maybe you can educate me on this. What is the difference between Unc and OG? Well, I don't know. What's the difference?
Unc and OG, you might. I feel like they're giving you a little more credit than Unc, because
Okay.
Unc, they might be saying, you know, you're not with the times, But OG, I feel like they're saying you know the Lord, you know what was going on. You were tapped in back then. That's OG.
Okay.
Unc, I feel like that's when people say, you know, oh, you're not with the times today, you know?
Yeah.
You're Unc. But if they call you OG,
Like you've been around.
they know
some
you've been
things.
around. They know you know some things.
Okay.
You know, they're with it.
I'll take that. I'll take that, because he called me OG. I'm like, well, hold on now. I don't know if I'm supposed to fight you right now or what. But OG, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's respect.
It's
all
respect.
love.
All love. Okay, well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate you breaking that down for me. So, you know, all my stories are going to be from an OG perspective, from back in the day, right? Well, my brother, he used to go to Job Corps. And so, and plus, I've known people throughout the years that have either gone to Job Corps or work at Job Corps. But the Department of Labor announced earlier this week that they are beginning to, in different phases, pause Job Corps centers nationwide. Now, they are going to initiate an orderly transition for students, staff, and local communities so that there's an effort to find employment for those students that are currently going through the program. You know, they're going to try to ramp up their training so they can get it wrapped up and then work to get them placed in jobs, because the pause of operations for all contracted Job Corps centers around the country is to take effect by June 30th. June 30th. Now, when I first heard this, I was like, yo, what are they doing? And I you know, I have to keep it real with you. My mind immediately went to, it's the Trump administration again. They're cutting money once again. They're completely debasing this country and gutting everything from the rooter to the tutor. That's where my mind went initially when I heard this story. But when I read the story for myself, when I began getting more insights for myself, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, well, you know what? It makes sense. I can understand it. So here's what's going on with Job Corps. The program has faced significant financial challenges under its current structure. Program year 2024, Job Corps operated at a $140 million deficit, requiring the Biden administration to implement a pause in center operations to complete the program year. So Job Corps sites were being paused under the Biden administration. So we can't pin the blame on Trump for this one. The Job Corps program was operating at a $140 million deficit in 2024. What do you think that deficit is expected to be for 2025? Well, you don't have to guess. I'll tell you. $213 million. Not only that, the Department of Employment and Training Administration released a first ever Job Corps transparency report, which analyzed the financial performance and operational cost of the most recent available metrics of program year 2023. So what these statistics that I'm about to share with you are findings from 2023. I don't have the deficit numbers for 2023 in front of me. I shared the deficit numbers for program year 2024, which was $140 million, and the projected deficit for 2025, which is $213 million. So in addition to the Job Corps program operating at a multi-million-dollar deficit, listen to some of these other findings from this report. The average graduation rate from Job Corps, 38.6%. The average cost per student per year, $80,284. The average cost per graduate of the Job Corps program, $155,600. Now, this is where my mind was, I kind of went Scooby-Doo, like, check this out. Post-separation. Post-separation could be post-graduation from a Job Corps facility and so forth. Participants, former Job Corps students, on average, earned nearly $17,000 annually. Let's do a quick recap. The average cost per student that Job Corps puts out is $80,000. The average total cost per graduate that Job Corps puts out is $155,000. But the average annual salary post-separation from Job Corps for those students, for those graduates, is less than $17,000 annually. Those dollars not making sense. Here's a troubling statistic. The total number of serious incident reports for program year 2023. Now, this information is 2 years old. I don't have these statistics for 2024 or 2025. This is from 2023. Serious incident reports from program year 2023, there were 14,913 infractions. This isn't from Jacksonville's Job Corps alone. This is Job Corps nationally. Okay, keep that in perspective. This is nationally. The National Job Corps program is being paused. All right, this is not just the staff over there off Gulf Fair Boulevard at the Job Corps facility. This is nationally. So the stat gives a breakdown of some of these infractions. Inappropriate sexual behavior and sexual assaults reported, 372. Acts of violence reported, 1,764. Breaches of safety or security, 1,167. Reported drug use, 2,702. Total hospital visits, 1,808. If you just tuned in, the numbers that I just gave are a brief breakdown of a serious incident report from program year 2023 for the Job Corps facilities nationwide. There were a total of 14,913 infractions. Why are we discussing this today on Front Page Jacksonville? Because just this week, it was announced that Job Corps nationally, the program is being paused. And much to my surprise, if you're currently thinking this, it's not being paused because of the Trump administration attempting to once again steal something from the people. No, this one kind of makes sense to me, because the reality of the matter is the Job Corps program those pauses began under the Biden administration. Why? Because in program year 2024, the Job Corps program operated at a $140 million deficit. And in 2025, the projected deficit is $213 million. So there has to be changes being made. There has to be some changes being made. Now, on the surface, I like what Job Corps offers. I've had an opportunity, I think it was last year, I had an opportunity to visit the Job Corps site here in Jacksonville. And I shared a little bit ago, my older brother, he attended Job Corps back in the 90s. So I like what Job Corps offers. I like the opportunities that Job Corps presents for some students. I like that Job Corps has these different programs that can help these transitional age youth be able to build a career for themselves as they step into adulthood. I don't necessarily like the fiscal deficit that they're operating at. I don't necessarily like some of these troublesome statistics, especially from the serious incident report from 2023. I don't know what the incident report is from 2024 and 2025. But each of the items that I mentioned, from inappropriate behavior, violence, drug usage, breach of security, total hospital visits, those are just the ones that were reported. Those are just the ones that were reported. So hopefully this pause of the Job Corps program will allow for the Department of Labor to revamp that program altogether and then unpause it and roll it back out so that it can operate at a more fiscally responsible level. But if it goes away altogether, I hate to hear that. Because I do believe in what Job Corps, their mission and what they're seeking to do. So hopefully they'll be able to continue, but do it at a more cost-effective rate. Hey, stick around. More is on the way. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on High 106.5.
New housing is on the way in the Durkeeville area. 5 new affordable single-family rental homes are coming to Jacksonville's Durkeeville neighborhood. The City of Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Housing Authority, and First Coast Construction broke ground on the project over on Groth Street on Friday. Now, here's a statement from Mayor Deegan. This is just the beginning. We're investing in this neighborhood and affordable housing, especially because it is just so critical to bring this neighborhood back. And these 5 homes are just a start, are just a great start. Hey, shout out to the City of Jacksonville for building affordable housing in the Durkeeville area. If you're in the Durkeeville community, shout out to you for having new homes being built there in the community. Now, here's my push to you, Durkeeville community. Hold the City of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville Housing Authority accountable. Keep them accountable. That's all I ask. Keep them accountable. It's great that these 5 new homes are going up, but those are just 5 new homes. How many new homes are slated? How many new homes does the Jacksonville Housing Authority intend to have built in the Durkeeville area? And what is the time frame for these new homes to be built? Additionally, they're saying it's affordable housing, so this is income-based housing. What's the ceiling and what is the floor with these homes? Hold them to task. It's great that they put this out in the news and they did the groundbreaking out there in Durkeeville. I'm curious, how long will it take them to complete the 5 houses? Please hold the City of Jacksonville accountable. Please hold the City of Jacksonville accountable for bringing this affordable housing into the Durkeeville area. And then here's the last caveat. Let's make sure that the housing remains affordable. Affordable housing is an issue throughout this entire city, around the country especially, but specifically here in Jacksonville, affordable housing is very difficult. I touched on this a couple of episodes ago here on the show, where we looked at several private investment equity firms that were buying up all of the apartments here in Jacksonville, making it very challenging to afford the cost of rent. And then just a couple of months ago, I believe it was the Jacksonville Housing Authority, there was a story where it was saying how affordable housing is unaffordable in Jacksonville. Well, hold on now. You can't have it both ways. Okay? Either the housing is affordable or it's unaffordable. Stop playing this shell game with people's livelihoods and living expenses. So congratulations to the Durkeeville community for having 5 new homes being built in that community. Just be sure to hold the city of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville Housing Authority to task. Let's make sure they're going to do what they say they're going to do when they're going to do it, and within the communities that they say they're going to do it in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me once again for another Sunday here on Front Page Jacksonville. Once again, if you'd like to catch up with me off mic, you can go to themilliondollarvoice.com. That's DAMilliondollarvoice.com. Stick around. Sunday morning inspirations with Wanda P are on the way. I'm Octavius Davis. I'll catch you next time.
Front Page Jacksonville, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For show episodes, go to hot1065fm.com. We are Hot 1065.